He waits 7 more days, but now he has a hope for the future. Jesus' wait in Jerusalem. David talks about waiting, and when David talks about waiting, it's in the context of there certainly is an element of time involved, but what's actually happening during that time of waiting, the word waiting means to get it together, to collect with an expectation. So when David says, I waited for the Lord, or I waited on the Lord, depending on which psalm you read, he realizes that that place, the dark night of the soul, when he's gone, and I'm here, and I'm waiting, the mature disciple knows that that is the time to start to collect yourself, to gather together around yourself. Remember, one of the things that we said last week was that when the Trinity appears at Jesus' baptism, there is a revelation. It's the biggest revelation practically of the whole Bible, that God is a community, and he designed us for community. He designed us for fellowship, to contend for one another. That's his design. He showed us, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, this whole idea of waiting. Jesus says, wait. There are going to be times where we have a sense of alienation that could almost lead us into atheism. You say, there's no way I'd become, that's not what I mean, that you're going to become an atheist. What I am saying is that if you talk to an atheist about God, they will let you know there is no God. And our alienation during the dark night of the soul, the separation could be so grave that we could have these feelings. There is no God. They're feelings, remember. Now, this last week, it was all over the news. You guys heard it about Robin Williams committing suicide. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of praying and preparing for tonight, I asked Carol at breakfast one morning, how often do you hear of somebody committing suicide in a group? Now, I'm not talking about Jim Jones and, and all that. I'm talking about somebody who gets so depressed, so despondent, because they kept saying depressed over and over and over and over again with Robin Williams. And the truth is this, when you get depressed, anxiety, depression, that whole thing, and you go off and your wife goes in one bedroom and you're going into another, and you're becoming alienated, that's not a good place to be. The place you want to be is in community. Because in community, brothers and sisters around you who will contend for you will say, I know what you're feeling. Christ felt like that. He felt forsaken. He felt like he was living not just a dark night of the soul. You might feel like you're living a dark year, a dark life of the soul. You know what I'm saying? In a group, it's hard to pull the trigger because those are the people around you that love you will gently help you put away the gun and stop gazing up in remorse and realize that there's something going on around you. And there's an activity called waiting. And in the waiting is where the baptism of the Holy Spirit happens. When you read the account, we didn't read the whole account, but they make their way back to Jerusalem and the Holy Spirit comes down in a community. The Holy Spirit comes down in a community. Whether we're worshiping, praying together in His Word, the Holy Spirit comes down. And I sit here and I say, that's God. That's the Holy Spirit. That's Jesus at work in our midst, in the community. This last week, I'm sure you also heard, because it's been all over the news every day, about the young man, Ferguson, Missouri, who was shot and killed by a police officer. And they've been rioting in the streets all week long. And the new officer that's been brought in to handle this whole situation made a very, very interesting comment. He made the comment, in fact, it was the news commentator who said, I give this man all the credit in the world because he walked out into the anger. What a picture that is. That's exactly what this guy did. There's 1,000 people. They're angry, they're screaming, they're yelling, crucify him, basically. And this guy walks out into that anger, into this darkness. There's got to be some brother, I'm going to tell you. And his statement to the crowd is this. This is not a black and white racial issue. This is a community issue. In other words, if we don't embrace and live in community and learn how to work through the tragedies and these things that are happening, we're through. Don't get deceived by black and white racial issues. This is the community that Jesus is forming. And how do you work and live in community and through these things? That's what the guy was basically saying. The bottom line for us tonight is this, and there was a bit more, but you can read it when you get the notes. The bottom line is this, and you may or may not have thought about it like this before. I still haven't given you the key word for tonight. The key word is actually engagement. And it doesn't mean like when you get engaged and get married. And it doesn't mean like an engagement of warfare where I'm calling you have to engage the enemy. Engagement is more than just connecting. Engagement is doing that. There's actually an engagement that takes place. We are not receding, we are proceeding into it. We do not back away from the darkness because we know this, that in the darkness is a place where you discover something of the Spirit. So how can you say that? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. In other words, you've got the darkness, and you've got the Spirit of God moving. Mature disciples realize, I do not have to be afraid of the dark night of the soul. I don't have to recede or back away. Actually, I will find something of the Spirit, because Jesus cries out, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. You find something of the Spirit in that dark place. You see, the Spirit of God is hovering before God says, let there be light, and there was light. And God divides the light from the darkness. While it's still darkness, the Spirit of God is moving. Mature disciple knows that. Dark night of the soul, the Spirit of God is moving. Jesus says, wait in Jerusalem. Wait in the city. Wait in the upper room. It says more than one time they came into one accord. They were being assembled more and more and more, and the Holy Spirit was poured out. In this dark 10 days, tough time, but you wait. They that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not grow weary. They shall walk and not faint. Wait. We're going to look at John the Baptist and at Jesus.